Over the last week, we have turned my EVO 8 from a basic grocery getter into a supercar killer. Full new engine management, a new 5-speed Quaife sequential transmission with a strain gauge and flat shift enabled, which means we can shift this car without using the clutch, which is a massive advantage on big turbo cars because if you can get through the gears without using the clutch, you don't lose boost in between shifting. Now, being that this car makes gobs of power, you need to be able to monitor all the sensors on the engine quite easily. Now, there's two options for that. Option number one is what we currently have set up. A single boost gauge in the instrument cluster, wideband and oil pressure on the pillar. But what about coolant pressure? What about oil temp? What about transmission temp? What about all those other readings that are very, very important? We could add gauges for all of that, or we could simplify the whole setup and go to a new dash from Haltech. So this is going to replace our factory instrument cluster. We're gonna have every sensor reading that we need readily available on the screen, which, like I said, is very vital when you have a car that is this built. If one thing goes wrong, you lose a motor. Now, before we get too far in the video, I gotta let you guys know we're down to the final 11 days of the Type R giveaway. 2019 FK8 Type R, full bolt-ons making just under 400 wheel, lowered on CE28 SLs. The craziest part is this car still gets over 30 miles a gallon. Again, guys, only 11 days left. Every $3 you spend on the website gets you one entry to take home the Type R. Now, of course, we want this dash installed in the car as cleanly as possible. So what I picked up is a dash mount for an EVO 8 and the Haltech IC7. So this guy just drops right in there, and then this bolts with those 3 tabs to the factory locations. In the back, simply just plugs right in to the Nexus ECU. Let's get started by pulling out the factory cluster out of the car. We need to remove the cluster surround. We need to remove this. There will be 3 screws for the cluster, 2 wiring plugins, and the cluster will be out. Factory dash is out. Here's a little side-by-side. Now, before we go ahead and install this into the car, if we want stuff like the blinkers, the headlight, the fuel level, the e-brake, all those indicators to work on the IC7, we need to go ahead and do a little bit of wiring. So here is the OEM pinout. Fuel is pin 51, for example, on the blue connector. We'll connect B51 to pin number 21 on the back of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and just build a little harness and connect these 5 wires to the OEM wiring on the car, and it should give us all the indicators on here that we need. Really didn't want to cut off the factory connectors for the OEM cluster, so I just tapped into the wires. All that is finished up. We should be able to go ahead, plug in the new dash, and make sure everything works as it should. All right, first look at the new dash. It appears that everything is working as it should. Everything is reading in Celsius though, so I do need to go ahead, plug into the laptop and make sure we can get that all switched over before I go ahead and install the dash mount. For some reason, I keep getting this error when I plug in the NSP software, so I got to give Haltech a call real quick and see if we can get that fixed so I can actually make some adjustments.
First thing we do whenever Windows is acting goofy, I'm guessing you've already done latest software.
We finally got everything switched over to Fahrenheit. Let's get this whole system completed and see how it looks installed. right, boys, the new dash is in. Let's see how it looks in the cockpit of the EVO. I do want to figure out how to put the gear indicator for the sequential on the dash. That'd be super cool. It is a magnet type, so it might be a little bit more difficult, but I think I could eventually figure it out. There she is. Man, that is sick. Now, if you take a look, unfortunately, I did forget to do something while the cluster was out, so I do need to pull it back out, as our battery or alternator once again is not charging, but I do know how to fix it. So I pulled the cluster. Pin number 9 jumps to pin number 19 with a 100 ohm 5 watt resistor. You guys can see it there installed on the back, and it is just shoved into the back side of the connector. Now what that does is simulate the factory battery light in the OEM cluster, telling the alternator it needs to charge. Without that resistor or without a bulb installed, it will not charge. Now, as you can see with the car running, it is charging. Here's the dash set up. You can see the left blinker works, right blinker works, high beams and all that work. So the dash is working exactly how it should be. Now I do have one more important mod that I think is very, very crucial to the interior of this car. So I did an EVO 10 steering wheel solely for OEM cruise control functions, which all work perfectly. I have not yet got the audio functions to work as we broke the radio. A lot of you guys comment in the comment section, and I completely agree. An OEM EVO 10 steering wheel is kind of looking out of place in this car, so I did go ahead and have a new wheel made. I'm hoping it looks much better in the cabin versus the OEM wheel. All right, you guys ready for this? Oh boy. I picked up a completely carbon wheel from AZA with a flat bottom, yellow stitch, Alcantara on the sides. Quite frankly, it's the identical setup of steering wheel that we run in the Huracan. I usually do suede on the sides, but I decided to run Alcantara this time, and it's so sick. This thing should completely change the look and feel of the interior on the EVO. I'm excited. So we need to go ahead, pull that wheel off, swap all of those buttons onto this wheel, get this wheel installed, and go for a rip. Everything is swapped over, and look at how beautiful this thing looks. The new wheel is fully installed. Man, check out the details on this wheel. AZA did a killer job, built exactly what I needed, and this cockpit view is looking pretty nice. I do need to replace that with just a regular carbon like that side with no holes for the gauges, and this interior is going to be perfect.
Thank you for calling Haltech.
I'm having a few issues with a Nexus R3. Basically, all the sensor readings, all the 5 volts are showing in the diagnostics tab. They're showing 6.91.
Ooh, that's definitely... Everything's maxed out. Can we unplug the C plug?
Pretty unfortunate and frustrating turn of events. As you guys just saw, the car no longer starts, it no longer runs. It appears something in the new Nexus ECU has shorted out. We just got off the phone with Haltech. There's continuity between the 12 volts and the 5 volts on the engine harness when it's plugged into the ECU, but as soon as we unplug it from the ECU, there's not. So something in the ECU between the 12 volt and 5 volt outputs is shorted out. which of course is very, very frustrating. Now they said it's gonna be about a month to fix as soon as they get it. So what I did is went ahead and second dayed another ECU. I guess now we're just gonna have a backup, a spare ECU. My plan for the rest of the day was to convince Bobby that sequentials are better than H patterns. She thinks they're too race car-y. Of course, we can't do that because the car won't run. So that's gonna have to wait till next week. If you guys wanna pick up one of these beautiful steering wheels, I'll go ahead and link their website down below. And the dash mount with the dash, I'll go ahead and link down below as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see ya in 2 days when the new ECU comes.